A small cement carrier with a crew of 8 was loaded with cement and underway across the North Sea on a passage plan that brought the vessel through the Pentland Firth. Having spent 24 hours heading into deteriorating weather and increasingly heavy seas, the master first reported that there will be a 2-hour delay to the arrival time at the Liverpool bar buoy. The next day, in consequence to the increasingly bad weather, his report stated that there would be a further 10-hour delay to the arrival time. As the vessel entered the Pentland Firth, watch the figure, it was making 272 degrees true and a speed of 10.6 knots. Once inside the Pentland Firth, the vessel was sighted by the crew of a nearby ferry. The cement carrier appeared to be upright and making slow headway, pitching heavily into the large waves. Later that afternoon, the vessel's AIS transmissions ceased. The vessel had disappeared. The data from the last received transmission showed a heading of 239 degrees, a course over ground of 276, and a speed over ground of 6.3 knots. Such a speed would, however, mean that the speed through water was less than 1 knot, rendering the vessel unmanageable and at the mercy of the ferocious incoming waves. The hull of the capsized cement carrier was spotted and reported to the local Coast Guard 25 hours later. The damaged vessel soon sank. Search and rescue activities were undertaken, but no crew members were found surviving. The official accident report found, among other things, that on one past occasion, when the vessel entered the Firth with an opposing tide, the same master held position by stemming the stream and waited for it to ease. From this, it can be deduced that the master understood the tidal risks and the actions which were normally taken to abort or avoid the unfavorable tidal conditions in the Firth. On another occasion of rough weather in the Pentland Firth, during an alteration of course across the sea, the vessel had heeled excessively and suffered a cargo shift, resulting in a significant list to port. The vessel was brought upright using her ballast tanks. The master's decision to proceed into the Firth on this final occasion with very unfavorable currents was inconsistent with his previous actions. The extraordinarily violent sea conditions were created by gale force winds opposing a strong ebb tidal current. Such conditions were predictable and the passage through the Pentland Firth should not have been attempted. The cement carrier was loaded to its draft marks, but the density of its bulk cargo was not properly considered. As a result, it is likely that the stability did not meet the minimum criteria set by IMO. Potential reductions in its righting levers would have made the cement carrier more vulnerable to capsize in the given situation. Lessons learned: always adopt a conservative approach to the weather. Your life depends on it. Never bring your vessel to a point where maneuverability is lost. I have been through the Pentland Firth a lot of times. The currents there are extremely strong, probably the strongest anywhere in the world. How many times do you check for tidal currents in your passage plan? Your life may depend on it. We need to plan our passage, and safety always comes first, irrespective of any kind of commercial pressure. On a side note, bulk carriers are infamous for going down very, very quickly. So when you're on a bulk carrier, take care. Make sure your loading is perfect and your passage plan is even better. There are two reports on this, the MAIB and the Nautical Institute. The picture from the Orkney VTS radar provided critical evidence of the capsize event itself. It showed that the capsize was extremely rapid in nature and the waves in the vicinity were so large that they were also captured by the radar. The MAIB investigation concluded that the Cemfjord capsized because it encountered violent storm conditions created by a strong tidal stream opposing gale force winds. The AIS data showed that the Cemfjord had slowed down probably to reduce the effect of pitching and pounding, but this reduction in speed also made her lose her steerage. The capsize itself would have been made much worse by a shift in the cement cargo that caused her to list beyond 30 degrees. I have been through the Pentland Firth, and the Pentland Firth is notorious for such conditions, which are well documented in various nautical publications as well as shown on the charts. The investigation concluded that this fatal accident was predictable and could have been avoided. The decision to pass the Firth under such conditions was a result of poor passage planning and real or imagined commercial pressures to push on with the voyage. This was also deepened by a cargo shift experienced by her 3 months ago when she was trying to alter course in heavy seas. The crew did not get a chance to relay a distress message because of the rapid nature of the capsize, and the accident went unnoticed ashore because although she had reported to the Coast Guard that she was entering the Firth, there is no requirement to report again outbound. The report also found that the Cemfjord was at sea with significant shortcomings with respect to the required safety equipment. She was sailing under class dispensation despite these shortcomings, rather than being held up in port for repairs. This was only possible because of the exemption from key safety regulations were made by her flag state for her. Since this accident, both the flag state and the operator have made major changes in the requirements for loading of ships as well as for passage planning. I will take both of these separately. The first and foremost responsibility of any captain is to ensure the safety of the vessel and her crew. This starts with safely loading the vessel, safe passage planning, and the maintenance of all LSA, FFA, and safety equipment on board. In this case, we see that we have failed on all three fronts. First, the cargo was not loaded properly. There are special procedures for loading of cement carriers that were not followed in this voyage. The biggest difference between a cement carrier and a regular bulk carrier is that the cement carriers have hopper-shaped holds with a lot of empty space in between. So the GM is not as much as it ought to be on a regular bulk carrier. There is always a problem with GM. The second thing is because it is a closed and dust-free loading, the loading is done from chutes and the cargo is not always properly trimmed. You have to make sure that the cargo is trimmed properly to prevent shift of cargo during rough weather. This was not done on the Cemfjord in this voyage or on previous voyages. Remember, she took a list to port, a severe list to port, just 3 months before this incident. Then comes the part of passage planning. The appraisal of the passage is the most important part where you gather all information concerned with the passage. It is the master's responsibility to make sure that the passage is properly planned and executed, taking into account the current changes in weather patterns and tidal streams. This master had on previous occasions passed through the Firth. He had on occasion waited the tide out at the Firth to pass with the current at an opportune time. He did not wait this time. Why? There could be commercial pressures or other reasons. We would never know now. But keep this in mind. Just trying to prevent a delay of a few hours has cost the life of 8 people. Lastly, maintenance of safety equipment. The vessel was under flag dispensation to sail with equipment which was not properly maintained or functional rather than be stopped for repairs. Flags do at times give dispensation on the company's request, on the owner's request, for a vessel to sail until the next port or until the repairs can be suitably carried out or until she can reach a port where suitable repairs can be carried out. These dispensations are usually short-term and should never be extended. In the end, it again becomes the master's call whether or not he finds it safe to proceed under these circumstances, depending again on the external factors. Now, do you realize what a master gets paid for? This responsibility. Keep these things in mind when you're planning your loading, when you're planning your passage, and as always, stay safe.